Oh, hey, how's it going?
I love Monday.com.
All right, hi everybody. Apologies, that was a bad way to start our global gathering with a YouTube advertisement, but that is just the way the timing worked. We were having some Malawi music on in the background just as we were getting everyone organised and entering. So welcome to the 2025 Global Gathering for Medic to Medic. I'm Tamsin, for those of you that haven't met me before. I'm the CEO of the organisation. And we've got some great speakers today. And as always, we may not be running to time. There are network challenges at the moment, so we may just shift the schedule around just according to how our speakers come in. But we'll keep everyone posted, and we're sort of expecting everyone to come and go. We're not kind of expecting you to be here and listening throughout the 2-hour event. So do feel free to log on and off. We are recording the session, as you may have just heard, and the recording will be available after the event as well. It will go on our YouTube channel, and we've also got a Spotify channel as well. So if you're planning any long trips and need a podcast to listen to, this could definitely fill that gap. So we've started these global gatherings. We started them on our 10th anniversary event a few years ago, and we decided to continue them because we thought they were actually a really good way of kind of sharing some of the stories and touching base with some of our community. Tends to be much more personal when you hear voices and you hear stories directly rather than kind of reading them from newsletters and things like that. So we're really grateful to you all that are checking this out in real time, but also who may be listening to it after the event as well. And we hope that it gives you a bit more information about what we do and who our beneficiaries are and how we sort of operate and work. Yeah, just a few kind of housekeeping things. If you're able to keep yourself on mute, that would be great. The schedule is sort of loosely set with kind of half an hour per speaker, but sort of does depend a little bit on questions and how network is going in Malawi. But we'll just kind of go with it as things occur. So I will just ask our first speaker. We're going to come back to Charles. I think he's having a few network challenges. But we've got Esmie here. So Esmie, are you okay to unmute yourself? I just want to double check your connection is all okay. And if you're able to put your video on, that would be amazing as well.
Hello.
Hi, Esmie, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good too. Thank you so much for joining us and being one of our speakers. I'll just introduce you. So, Esmie works at St John of God College in Mzuzu. We've been working closely with her over the last few years, and I've always really enjoyed working with Esmie. She always gives me such a warm smile and a really good, fruitful discussions that we have. St John of God, is based in Mzuzu. It's headed up by Esmie. So she has a PhD in nursing science from the University of Limpopo in South Africa, and she's got a Master's of Advanced Practice from Griffith University in Australia, a Master's of Educational Leadership from UNICAF in Zambia, and did her BSc in Nursing Studies at Derby University in the UK. So she's very qualified within the nursing setting and also within the student setting as well. So Esmie is going to talk to us a little bit about heading up a university and also some of those challenges that students face. So I will turn myself off on mute and my video off. So Esmie, over to you when you're ready.
Yeah, of course, I'm having a bit of a hiccup. I want to share my presentation. And,
If you're having challenges, you can share it with me on WhatsApp if you want, and then I'll download it and I can share it for you. But hopefully the settings should be working.
I'm trying to make them work. Uh, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, it looks like it's loading. It's just taking a few minutes. But yeah, it looks like it's coming up. Yeah, perfect. We can see it.
Oh, sorry, it's starting right at the end. Okay, so can I start?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, start when you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. I don't know if it's morning on the other side. My name, as introduced, I'm Esmie Mkwinda. I'm the college principal for St. John of God College of Health Sciences. As you've seen, I've put in the new name, St. John of God University, because we recently given that status, which we're still working on to finalize the whole process. Having said that, my presentation this afternoon is on the need for more scholarships. If you look at the background of St. John of God University, it's a subsidiary of St. John of God Hospital Services in Malawi. As a college, it was established in 2003, and the aim was to improve mental health care services in Malawi. If you would remember, at this time, 2003, HIV was really taking people's lives, and the college or the institution had to introduce a certificate in psychosocial counseling to meet that need at that point. So they introduced this counseling, but also they were offering counseling services to the community. So they wanted people to be, at least to have the knowledge of what they are doing at an advanced level. So that's how they introduced the university certificate in psychosocial counseling. Then later on, they introduced the Bachelor of Science in Psychiatric Nursing, but also Bachelor of Science in Clinical Medicine, Mental Health. That was in 2008. And then because initially it was University Certificate in Psychosocial Counseling. It was then upgraded to a diploma in 2010. And then later on, 2014, the college introduced diploma in Registered Nursing. Then in 2023, the college introduced a diploma in clinical medicine at both generic and upgrading level. And then the diploma in psychosocial counseling was also upgraded to a Bachelor of Science in Psychotherapy. And the same year, the Bachelor of Science in Nursing was also introduced, just for a background of where I am. So the college has 3 departments: Department of Nursing and Midwifery, Department of Clinical Medicine, but also Psychosocial Department. And for the 7 programs that I've just talked about, they are affiliated to University of Malawi. That's a Bachelor of Science in Psychotherapy. It's a 4-year program, but having 3 exit points. Someone can exit at a certificate level, at diploma level, but also finish the whole program and get a Bachelor of Science in Psychotherapy. But also Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, we have a CADA Bachelor of Science in Mental Health, Psychiatric Nursing. It's an upgrading program, 2-year program. So the ones that enroll in this program might have a diploma in nursing, a diploma in mental health. So they come for this upgrading program. And also we have another program under Mzuzu University, Bachelor of Science in Clinical Medicine, Mental Health. It's also an upgrading program, a 2-year program, but also Bachelor of Science in Nursing and Midwifery. It's a 4-year program, generic program. And then University Certificate in Midwifery. We are planning to start it in January, but it has been delayed. And then Diploma in Clinical Medicine, but also Diploma in Clinical Medicine upgrading. This is a 2-year program, and it's being self-offered by us with support from Medical Council of Malawi. But also upcoming programs, we have Bachelor of Science in Public Health, which we are waiting for National Council of Higher Education to accredit before we start introducing it. Also have plans to introduce Bachelor of Science in Health Information Management System and Master of Science in Mental Health by Research, Masters in also Child Mental Health by Research. Having said that, if you look at our college, our niche is mental health. Currently in Malawi, we have high rates of suicide. Malawi is one of the countries which has high rates of suicide in men. As of January 2025, we had statistics of 52 men committing suicide. And in the men, there's also even the youth, but those that are male. And then for women, we have only 3. So this is as of January. And yet Malawi has very few specialized people in mental health. The country has a population of about 21 million, but we only have 2 psychologists. We've been training psychosocial counseling at a diploma level. We haven't graduated the ones at a BSc level yet. And unfortunately, the ones at a diploma level, they are not established in the government. So they are only working in private institutions, non-governmental organizations. So we don't have this cadre in our healthcare system yet. So this poses a big challenge for the country. And if you look at our core values for St. John of God, we have hospitality, we have compassion, we have respect, we have justice, and we have excellence. So even for our students, we do use the same values for them. Unfortunately, with the challenges that the college is facing, school fees and all, sometimes these values are not adhered to properly. We do support students. We have accommodation. We have accommodation that can take up to 80 students. Our cafeteria is outsourced. We have some recreation facilities. We also have health support. The institution has a clinic, but also provides counseling services. We also have a chaplain and dean of students throughout. Currently, our statistics is 330 students. If you can have a look with our upgrading programs, it's very few that enroll in these programs. The generic programs, they have more students than the upgrading programs. And so far, since the inception of the college in 2003, we've contributed to human capital by 850. That's the capital of students that have graduated at St. John of God. And also the college or university engages in mental health awareness campaigns at both community level, workplaces, and schools. Having said that, with mental health as our niche, we are really struggling to meet the need of the country, looking at it that we have the Bachelor of Science in Nursing and also Bachelor of Science in Clinical Medicine, Mental Health. Very few of these do graduate because of challenges of school fees. So far, we've been supported by several organizations, but the numbers are very few. Currently, we have Gaia, which is supporting 5 students, but also through Gaia, we have NBS supporting 5 students, Medic to Medic is supporting 6, and 3 had been supported previously by CDC. In terms of the needs, we used to get support from Ireland. Remember, this institution is a subsidiary of St. John of God Hospital Services, which is based in Ireland. But this support stopped during COVID because it was the brothers in Ireland which were providing this financial support. During COVID, 3/4 of them passed away. And this created a big gap to a point that some students had to drop out, some had to reserve spaces. The upgrading students, they don't get support from the government. Actually, most of them, if they are coming from the government institutions, once they come and to do their bachelor's, they are taken off the payroll. So it gives them a challenge to continue. Some of them, the families will support them. Some of them, they will reserve a place, but never to come back. So we just have very limited scholarships to support these students. Having said that, we also don't have student loans. Yes, our programs are affiliated to Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, University of Malawi, Mzuzu University, which have access to loans. But because we are not a fully fledged university, we got the status in 2021, but we are still working with National Council of Higher Education to make sure that all our programs are approved by National Council of Higher Education. So far, our students don't have access to the loans, making it very difficult for them to complete their studies. And sometimes families will say, no, go and start the course. In the process, they will say, no, I cannot manage anymore. So they disappoint the students. And we have students that lack food. Some of them, they walk long distances to school because they cannot afford accommodation that is at the institution. Some can't even afford transport. 20% they will reserve a place and then they don't come back. Before these students go, we do offer them counseling just to make sure that they still have hope. But really, we have a challenge in this area. And because of that, most of the students, when a student has stress of school fees, some they fail exams, some they withdraw on academic grounds, some have long-term emotional complications, but also mental health complications. And at the moment, it's like we train those that we can afford. And this really threatens the inclusivity, but also our core values. And this is it becomes emotional when a student says, I'm going home, I can't afford to pay school fees. What you can do to help? You can support a student. We normally have support a student campaigns. We also have St. John of God Hospital Basket, which also supports the students that can't afford school fees, but also through Medic to Medic. We've seen how they are passionate about helping students, and you can reach out to them so that you support our students. But also, you can assist the students that are failing to finish their studies because of fee balances. So that can also be a help for these students. As an institution, we try our best to keep our students in school while looking for support elsewhere, and sometimes our trying becomes fruitless. We see organizations that maybe they don't know much about mental health, and when we introduce this program, psychosocial counseling, psychiatric nursing, clinical medicine, mental health, they would rather support students that are doing these other programs. But as a country, we are facing these challenges in mental health and would like to help the government to train more. That's why we are calling for those that can help us to keep these students in school, but also help us to support these students so that we have adequate psychologists, adequate psychosocial counselors, adequate mental health care practitioners. So that's our plea for help. We have a fee structure at the moment. The Bachelor of Science programs, their fee structure is 765,000 Malawi kwacha a year, but also for diploma programs is 665,000 kwacha a year. I've also just put our bank details for those that would like to deposit something and just let us know that you are willing to support a student in several areas, even for some that would like to support students in terms of food and any other means, they are welcome. So St. John of God, just in a nutshell, as an institution, currently we're in the process of registering with National Council of Higher Education to become a full-fledged university. And we are hoping that at that point, we'll be able to also have our students access student loans, but also have more people that are trained in mental health, psychosocial counseling, so that we help our country, Malawi, which is facing challenges in mental health, but also other areas of health in Malawi. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you so much, Esmie. That was wonderful to hear your perspectives, and it's wonderful to see how much St. John of God University has grown over the last few years, and you really inspire us by just your energy to keep going. I think we share often conversations about the challenges that we both share supporting students, and it's that they are shared challenges, but you guys bear the brunt of those challenges on the ground, and I think it is it's incredibly hard to be faculty and see the need, and also see so many students that need support, and often being very helpless in how you can help support your students as well. But I think you guys do a really great job, and I can see, like, as I say, you really inspire us every time we meet you. You're always going ahead with like new programs, new activities, and it's always very inspiring to kind of meet with you and have these conversations. But thank you so much for sharing everything that you have done. I think you shared very eloquently all the student challenges there as well. So thank you. It was great to get your perspective and insights from a faculty perspective. And I'm hopeful for the future that we'll be able to take on a few more students over the next few years from St. John of God as well. So thank you again. Has anyone got any questions from Esmie? If you have, feel free to put them in the chat box, and we can kind of ask them on your behalf, or just give any questions a moment or two to come through. But in the meantime, our next speaker is going to be Yohane. So Yohane, I'm not sure if you have a PowerPoint presentation or anything you want to share. If you have, feel free to share your presentation. And if we've got any questions, Esmie can go through them as well. Esmie, I'll just get you to stop sharing your presentation if that's okay. So if you head back down to the toolbar, I think there's an option to say stop share, and then if Yohane has a presentation, he will hopefully be able to share it as well.
No, I don't have a presentation.
Okay. All right then. Good. Cool. All right. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions for Esmie, but if there are any later on, feel free to put them in the box. If Esmie has to leave, I will share the questions afterwards, and we'll try and facilitate that. All right. So Yohane is one of our alumni. So he's now finished his internship. He was at Zomba Central Hospital. So he's now a fully qualified medical doctor with the Malawi Medical Council. And he's been very involved in a lot of our activities as an alumnus. And so, which is one of the main reasons that we asked him to come and present today, to share a bit more about how he's got involved in Medic to Medic after graduating and as a graduate. So over to you, Yohane. If you want to put your video on, you're more than welcome to, but if your network is a challenge, it off. But it would be lovely to see your face if the network is working well.
Okay. Thank you, Tamsin, for this opportunity. Hello to everyone. She has introduced me. I'm Yohane Magalasi. I started
Network is
Sorry, Yohane, I think your network. So
okay.
feel free, as I say,
Okay.
if your
So,
video
okay.
if it's better to have your video off.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Is that okay?
Yep, that seems fine. Yep.
All right. So yes, I studied Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery from 2016 up to 2022. Then I completed 18 months of internship at Zomba Central Hospital as required by the Medical Council of Malawi. So before I give out what I've been doing with medic to medic posts and post graduation, just a brief history about me, about how I came to be a medic to medic alumnus. I'm the 16th born in a family of 7. I come from the southern part of Malawi, the Cholo district. I was raised by a single mother. My father left when my mom was pregnant for me in 1998 until the age of 5, when my mom's younger sister, who is my aunt, took over the responsibility of me, and I've been living with her since then. I did my secondary school education at the minor seminary, at a local minor seminary here in Malawi, in Zomba to be specific. I wanted to be a Catholic priest when I was in primary school, but the dream changed along the way. So I studied at the minor seminary in Zomba until Form 4, when I changed careers to say that I would like to pursue medicine. So that's when I found myself at the College of Medicine. In 2016, when I was selected to pursue Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery at the University of Malawi, the school fees was 275,000 at that time, a tuition fee, excluding accommodation and the other fees. However, in the same year, the government raised the school fees from 275,000 a year to 550,000 Malawi kwacha a year. It would have been easier for me if the fees wasn't raised, because that time the government was giving 100% loan to the students. However, with this increment, since it came mid-year, the government could not cover up for the deficit. So everyone had to source out these funds on their own, which was very challenging for me because my aunt by then was just a primary school teacher, and her pay was around 90,000 kwacha compared to a deficit of 300,000 kwacha. It was not possible for her, knowing also that she also had her own family which she had to take care of. Likely enough, I got a scholarship with the young university, one of the local universities that had aspirations to start training medical doctors on their own. But since it didn't have enough resources, it just went to College of Medicine and chose a few students that it could support. Later on, they could become their own medical doctors. So they started supporting me in my pre-med foundation year, first year, and second year. But due to some factors, we heard that there was misappropriation of funds here in Malawi. They had to cut off the scholarship. It was really a sad time for me and my colleagues, since we are coming from very needy families, and it was not possible for us to pay the fees. And also, when the scholarship came in, they had agreed that they would be paying an international fees, which was around $4,000. At that time, it was around 5 million kwacha compared to the local 550,000 kwacha. So even if I was to ask for help from outsiders, it would not be easy as the fees was just too much. So my second year, that was in 2019, they allowed us to go on while we were discussing on how to go about our fees. So second year, third year, when it came to fourth year, seems that no one was willing to help us. So College of Medicine had to chase us, like say, no, it seems that you'll not be able to pay your fees. It has mounted up to $8,000. So you can't pay this. So the best way is for you to ask for a year at home. Maybe you can raise the funds, but I think it was just a way to chase us out of school because they knew our economic status, and as Malawians, it's not easy to raise $8,000, and that was in 2020. However, in 2019, when I had lost the 2019 when I had lost the scholarship, I started looking for scholarship opportunities, and I came across Medic to Medic. I applied in 2019, but I think due to funding, I didn't get the scholarship right away in the same year, and also based on the fact that I was supposed to pay a lot of money, which Medic to Medic would have been able to use to support 2 or 3 or more students with that same amount of money. So came 2020, Medic to Medic adopted me, and they started paying for part of my fees, but in Malawi kwacha. So the only challenge was it was not even enough to cater for everything. We consulted the Malawi government, and with luck, someone in the high offices helped us to reduce our fees from an international student to a mature student. So we are supposed to be paying 1,250,000 kwacha as of 2021. So the total amount of fees that had to be paid that time, plus the deficit that we had accumulated over the years, was 4 million kwacha. So after they had chased us, I talked Tamzin. She came in, she paid half of the fees. I talked to some of my family members, my uncles, and also my brother had to sell a bit of some land. Since the college wanted all the money at once, we had tried to talk to them that they should give us time to pay enough time on it. It was either you pay the whole amount or you have to reserve a place for a year and go back home. But with the situation back at home, we tried our best, and with the help of Medic to Medic, which paid half of the amount, I was able to go back to school. So despite having reserved a place, which we had to do, the government came in and intervened and said, if they have the fees, let them come in. You can disregard the documents that they signed with regards to reserving a place. So I went back to school after 2 weeks of not going into class. And that time I was doing my obstetrics and gynecology rotation. Despite having missed 2 weeks, I was determined to pass my exams because I had in mind that if I failed to make it this time, it would be even tougher for my family or even Medic to Medic to give me more money for the supplementary, because at that rate, we had to be paying like 1,250,000 per year. So I think one of my motivations was also to get done with it and finish school and move on to something better. So likely enough, I was able to finish my education without a supplementary, without having to repeat. And I graduated in 2023 in April with a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. So after my graduation, I presented myself available for Medic to Medic to help raise with funds to support my fellow students, because being a beneficiary of Medic to Medic, and I understand that what I went through, it's not only me who is going through such circumstances in college. A lot of my friends have been going through. Some are still at the College of Medicine, having been affected by this trauma. Some even got withdrawn. So I made it a point that I should be part and parcel of this incredible charitable organization to help in raising funds for some of my fellow students who are pursuing healthcare professions in Malawi. So as the medic to medic alumnus, I volunteer with various activities. One of them is as an alumnus, I do guardian visits. So before medic to medic gives out scholarships, it conducts guardian visits. So this involves going to the grassroots or the families to meet the families of the students who have applied for this scholarship. So I meet their parents or whoever their guardians are. So I have to travel all the way to their homes. Some are most of them are hard to reach areas. Like I had to visit one of the students who lives almost in Mozambique. Like we had to cross Lake Shiwa onto Mozambique to meet their parents. And one of the visits, we also I had to go with an elective student from New Zealand to visit a student's home. I also do elective student guidance or as a mentor. So when students from UK or wherever come to Malawi, I act as a focal point. I guide them whether they want to know where the shops are, maybe they want to visit the lake, maybe they want to go to Mulanje Mountain. I help with them with booking, I help them with their health care, maybe they want to access the hospital and all that. I'm also an elective student tutor, so I present mostly on neglected tropical diseases. We've done it like 2 or 3 times. So that's what most I'm presenting on. I also present on malnutrition in Malawi. So these are just some of the fundraising activities that Medic to Medic does in order to help raise funds to support its cause of supporting health professionals in Malawi. After my finishing internship in December, I've been doing pieceworks or locums at the private hospitals, mostly in Blantyre, where I'm currently right now. However, as of last month, I got a job offer with one of the facilities, healthcare facilities in Malawi, the 400 group of CHAM, Christian Health Association of Malawi. So these are hospitals that are on the secondary level of care in Malawi. So they offer health care that patients wouldn't be able to access it in very remote areas. So as of April, I'm traveling to Doa, which is in the central region in Malawi, at Madisi Mission Hospital, where I'll be working as a principal medical officer as of 1st April 2025. However, I still continue to be an alumnus of Medic to Medic, helping in raising funds in whatever activities that Medic to Medic and Tamzin suggest that could help in raising funds. For my postgraduate, I have plans to study pathology. I would want to study it in South Africa, since in Malawi, the program is not fully established. I haven't yet got a scholarship to study pathology, but I hope I'll get it soon. But I'm okay to work for a year or two just to give back to the local community in Malawi. Then maybe I can proceed on with my career progression. So basically, that's it about me. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Yohane. It was lovely to hear your journey again. And I think of all of our graduates, you have been the most proactive person whenever we've put messages out on the WhatsApp groups asking for volunteers or helpers or just the new things that we've started over the last few years. You've always been someone who puts your hand up and wants to get stuck in. So I'm sure you're going to be successful at whatever you put your mind to, because you've got a great enthusiasm and energy, and I've definitely very much appreciated all your help and support in kind of being an elective mentor and getting involved in teaching and doing the very challenging visits geographically at times. So for those that want to read a bit more about that, Yohane did a write-up for us for one of the Guardian visits in our newsletter last year, where he talked more about crossing Lake Chiwa several times. So he's got lots of good stories. But has anyone got any questions for Yohane? Again, if there's anything that you want to ask, feel free to put it in the chat box, and we can kind of ask the questions at a later time. All right, so we'll just kind of move on to our next speaker. Just check that Charles is available. So I think Charles, you are online. I just wondered how your network and connection was.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you. Is your network okay, Charles?
Yeah, we've tried.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Yeah.
so we'll say thank you to Yohane. Thanks for sharing all the things that you did. It was great to hear from you again. And just to introduce Charles, so Charles is one of the newest members of our student community. So he is doing the degree program in psychotherapy at St. John of God. We support 5 students in psychotherapy, and Charles is one of them, and they've been able to be supported through the fundraising that we've done with our elective program. So if you know of any elective students that want to spend some time in Malawi, do direct them our way, because it means we can start more student scholarships for our Malawian colleagues. And Charles is going to share with us a little bit of the student perspective, his journey sort of into university, and also the challenges he had, and a little bit of reflection on now he's on a scholarship, what that looks like. So Charles, when you're ready, feel free to go ahead. If your network is good, feel free to put on your camera, but if it's not going to be not going to hold, then yeah, keep it off. That's fine.
Okay. Though my network is very poor, I apologize for that.
No problem. You can leave your camera off. That's all good.
All right, fine. Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for the opportunities. Yeah, more especially the opportunity that I have to, sit here and talk to you and to be here with you people. I don't take it for granted. I'm grateful. My name is Charles, like the way Dr. Tamsin said. My name is Charles Precious Nyirenda. I was born in 1993 on 14 July. I'm the second born from the family of 5. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult sometimes just to start explaining everything like it, because my life story is a bit long. But anyway, I'll cut it short. I was born in 1993 with my mother and my father. Before my mother got married to my father, she once married somewhere, and he has a brother. I have a brother. That's why I'm saying I'm the second born. Yeah. So when they got married, then they just stayed there for 5 years, I think. When I was just 3, is when they got separated. Yeah. My mom told me that she was abused because my father was beating her almost every day, because my father was a drunkard. So we get home. Yeah, we get home, starting afresh, starting at the scrap, because at home there was no house for us to be in. So we started on another dilapidated house of my uncle, who just traveled long time ago. So we just get in there that's the only place that we could. So after we get there, that time I was 3 years. So my mom was, and I think she had my younger brother who was just months. Yeah. So it's like she has 2 burdens that they have to look after. So being at home, the place where we don't know anything about, We don't know where we can fetch water, where we can find friends, or my mom can even find people that can, can go and ask anything. It was very difficult. So after some time, just because my mom was a strong woman, so she tried to renovate that house. And at the same time, she has to go out fishing for food so that I should be eating there. So the life was very hard. Yeah, it's a very touching story. When I just think of remembering how it was. Now that when my mom sometimes could even leave me with my brother, so I had to miss my brother because I was the only one that he relies on. Yeah. So when I went out, when she went out looking for food, then I have to be with my brother. So when I turned somewhere 8, if not 7, is when I started primary standard 1. I started very late just because I was busy. Yeah, even though I was going to school, but I was very worried because my mother was like, she has 2 responsibilities to look after. For the first one was she has to look for food. When I'm coming back from school, I should have something to eat. And under the second thought was I was also thinking about my brother, because my mother was always busy. So I was worried about that. So I have to travel the distance of 7 kilometers without even a foot, barefooted, that is, going to and fro. So it was very hard. Yeah, it was very hard. So, being in the village, because we have no friends, people could call us names. Yeah, we are the topic of discussions. Even my mother, wherever she's moving, she's going maybe to fetch water. She could even wait for people to fetch water before her joining there, because otherwise, if she get there, people will be mocking her. It was a very touching thing. Yeah, sometimes I could see my mom coming from fetching food for us, then coming back from there crying. That means things were not well with that. That means instead of getting what she went there to get, then she get abused, sexually assaulted. So all those things were just happening. I could even, I feel sorry when I'm saying these things. So when by and by, I going to school. Even going to school is not the initiative was coming from my uncle, at least distant one, not from my mother's side. So it was difficult for my mother to let me go to school just because of the responsibility that I was having with her. So when I get to school, my mom was having problems with my brother. Then when I get to study 8, when my mom said, I think now it's time you no longer need school, because as long as you know how to write and how to write, that's okay. But because I wanted more, so I had to move from my mom's place and staying with my mom's younger sister, who promised me that she's going to support me with my education. When I get there, it was opposite. It was contrary to her promises. So I was used there doing the farm thing, doing some chores that I was not supposed to do. Some of the jobs that I was doing was very heavy according to my age at that time. So I was doing that at least for the interest of maybe I will be initiated in another time. Maybe they have said, please, as a token of appreciation, they will say, because this guy is doing this, let me just try to offer him school. So this did not happen. Then I thought the life was very unbearable there. Then I have to move. Then fortunately, I went to my uncle, staying in Mkwinda. So in Mkwinda there, my uncle also promised me, I was in Form 1. When I get there, he promised me that he's going to do that for me. He's going to pay me school fees, because my interest was school fees. So when I get there, he paid me one term. After that one term, then the next term, he said, he doesn't have any money. So I have to jump up and down. Yeah, I was do some piece jobs. After doing piece job, though the money was not that much, the fees was just 2.5. So somehow it was a money that could be affordable, but the way things were, to me, it was unaffordable. So I had to still knock into other doors of people. Unfortunately enough, it did not work. Then I tried doing the piece job, going to people's farms and raising school fees for myself. And I did my secondary school in 2011. So in 2011, when I look at my mother's place there, after my mother's, the struggle of having farms, the piece of land where to farm, people could find advantages, and she had another, and it's like now I'm having another 3 junior siblings. And they're coming just because of the desperation of my mother. So they took advantage of how my mother's, the vulnerability of my mother's. So yeah, we are 5 now from the 3 that we were at the first. So when I was looking back, then I could see that there's still a space in my house that my mom could not even manage to take care of all of us, including my brother, my 2 brothers, and 1 sister, the last born. So I have to think of looking for greener pasture. Then the first time I went to Zambia. Then when I was in Zambia there, I thought that I could change my family, but it did not happen. So then I came back from there empty-handed. Then because being at home, looking at my mom struggling, that it was very hard for me to see it. I don't want to witness it. So I had to go to South Africa again. So when I get there, I went there in 2019. I've been in South Africa for 2 years. 2019, that was in December 29. Then I came back from South Africa. That was in 2021. So because I thought things were going to work there, but it did not work. So I feel like, no, I think let me just go home there and be with my mother. Maybe let me just be the farm. Maybe let's just do the farming the way other people are doing. Yeah, because my mom was saying, because if things are not working there, then it's better for you to come back home here. So you can just open up the farms, then you can start growing tobaccos, cultivating groundnuts, then you're selling them, then at least you sustain your family. So when I get back, then still more, I was not convinced, because I had this dream ever since that I wanted to work, at least to be part of helping people. So helping people, I was really specialized myself to do this to be in the health department somewhere there. Though I was not specialized on where I'd be. So when I started applying, because I did not do well in my MSCE, but I just applied. I was just applying because I had English there. I did it well. So I was applying in different colleges and universities. Unfortunately, it did not work. Then because I didn't get tired of applying, then I was still applying. Then I was also working with the glass company in Mzuzu, somewhere at least to sustain my family and myself. So when I was applying there, then fortunately, I was favored by St. John of God College of Health Sciences. So in 2022, I started as a psychosocial counselor, as a diploma in psychosocial counselor. So that time I was promised by my brother the first brother from my father's side. So he said, don't worry, I think the fees was fair enough. It was 370 something. So he said, don't worry, that at least we can manage doing that. As far as I'm also doing my piece job, then we can put the money together. Maybe we can try to assist each other. Then after I started school in 2022, then it did not work. Then I was looking for the fees, but it did not work. It didn't provide fees for me. So I had to reserve the place. Then I went back home to my mom, then do the farming with her. After farming, then we cultivated groundnuts with her. So because we only managed to cultivate groundnuts, we did not do well. So the money that I only get from the amount of money that we had, I just managed to get 100,000 Malawi kwacha. 100,000 Malawi kwacha. That's the money that I even prayed with my mom. Please let me have this money and deposit 2023 when the next cohort is coming, so that I have to be part of the psychosocial counselors. So when I get the 100,000, then after this reservation of the place in 2022, then I come back in 2023 with the next cohort when I deposit 100,000, but still it did not work. I knocked every door of people, the well-wishers who could at least help me with scholarship or sponsorship, it did not work. Then I even went to the deputy vice chancellor of University of Malawi, who is Madam Esmie Mkwinda, the college principal. And I went there and pleading with her, crying, so that maybe if there's anything that can be there. I'm doing this for my mother because she has been there for me and my brothers and my siblings in general. So I'm doing this so that next time she should celebrate that. She should live the fruit of her own labor. I know it's a very long journey for where I came to this point. So I was doing this, and I'm still doing this for my mother. Then after this scholarship, after the medic to medic you came in, is when my principal could, after seeing how needy I was, that's how I was considered. Yeah, that's how what I can say. And to wrap up all, I'm just grateful because I was not even thinking of that my name will be recognized the way it is now. Yeah. So the future that I'm planning now is I want to be specialized in sign languages, because after I just realized and looking around where I'm coming from, my community where I'm coming from, there are a lot of people that are deaf. Some of them they can't even hear, some they can't even talk. So those people, they have messages that they can deliver, but because they can't say anything that people can say, that's why they are just in silent. So if I have to specialize myself into sign languages, that means I'll talk to those people, I'll hear their messages, I'll disseminate what they want, and I'll do the action to whatever they want us to be doing. Yeah. And if all goes well with me, if I did my bachelor's, I have it, that means I will have to I will open my own initiative so that I should help other people. There are people out there, for example, in Malawi, people are committing suicide. So there's no medicines that people can cure from suicide apart from what I'm doing. So suicide is a thing that is mentally. So if I have opened my own initiative, that if I open or anything that is going to do the counseling and the likes, at least to trying to eliminate this suicidal thing that people are doing each and every time, at least I can, on that thing, that means I can try to help my country, Malawi. Yeah, and the other thing is I will also be helping other people who need my services, because not everyone is here who can have money. Like, to my own story, there are also people out there that are also needs the same thing that are happening to me, or they need my services or counseling, or therapy sessions. So they will be there, but they don't have anything to offer. I'll just be assisting those people with no financial return. Yeah, just helping them the way I've been helped through the medic to medic. And I promise this, I don't take it for granted. On this, I promise you that I will definitely do these things. Yes. And lastly, I would like to appreciate and saying thank you for everything that you are doing to me, and for the allowances you're giving to me. That's life-changing. To be honest, that thing has really changed my life everywhere. And yeah, I'm really sustained by the rest with Medic to Medic. And I really thank you, Tanzim and the team, for everything that we did to me. That's all for now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Charles. I always find the student stories so inspiring, and I think what we find really inspiring is that in Malawi, everyone has such challenges. Like, it doesn't matter sort of where you come from or who you are, you live with challenges every day. And the fact that so many of you still continue and you don't let them get you down, and you look ahead and you're wanting to do something to help other people as well, is what we really find amazing. And you've really inspired us. I remember hearing your story during interview and kind of just being very I can't think of another word, but just inspired by your passion for wanting to help others, and everything that you've been through in your story has been very humbling to kind of hear and be part of. So we're very grateful to you to share your story and your journey so far, and we're looking forward to kind of being with you as the journey continues, as your academic journey carries on. And so thank you again for sharing. If anyone has any questions for Charles, again, feel free to put them in the chat box, and we can kind of facilitate them. We have one last speaker to go, so we'll just see if any questions come through, but otherwise we'll shortly move on. All right, lovely. All right, thank you so much, Charles. Doesn't look like there's any questions, but if anything does come up, I will let you know, and I'll pass on those questions to you. So our final speaker, we try to do these global gatherings where we have an alumni representative, a student representative, and then a trustee sort of representative and a faculty representative. So our final speaker is Liz. She's a trustee in our UK board, and she's lived in Malawi for a few years. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, I might get the dates wrong, but you were there from 2015 to 2018. And we managed to entice her onto the board of trustees, not really with any carrot at the end, but just because we knew that she was very passionate about Malawi, and had sort of a lot of lived experience of the challenges. So it'd be a good person to advocate for a lot of student challenges to kind of the donor community. So I'll hand over to Liz now to do our final talk, and then we'll almost be rounded up. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you, Tamsin. It's really nice to be here, and thank you to the other speakers. I was really inspired by Esmie, Yohane, and Charles and the different things that they had to say. And I was also interested to hear there was a sort of mental health link there. I didn't realise St John's was specialising in mental health, so that's something I learned today, and that was really interesting to hear Esmie talk about that. And then also, of course, all the stories from both Yohane and Charles, how they've overcome so much to get to where they are today, and their passion for helping people, and Charles with his passion for helping people with mental health problems. And I think Esmie and Charles both mentioned suicide as an issue in Malawi that's neglected. So that's interesting to me too. It's interesting to me because I am a GP, living now in the UK, in Brighton by the sea, and I also work for an organisation called NHS Practitioner Health, which looks after the mental health of healthcare professionals working in the NHS. But mainly we see doctors, and they present to us sometimes with symptoms of stress, depression, addiction, and burnout. And sometimes that's related to work issues, feeling overworked, or being maybe in quite a toxic or difficult work environment. And sometimes it's related to things going on in their own families, so maybe relationship breakup or bereavement, or concerns about their children, or illness, or other things that might be making it hard for them to function as healthcare professionals. So I have quite an interest in mental health and well-being. And yes, I lived in Malawi between 2015 and 2018. I got to visit there again in October last year, and spent some time with Tamsin at the Medic to Medic house. And we also got to visit Trinity in Fatima as well, which was really great to see that. So yeah, still got a passion for Malawi. And when I worked in Malawi, I wasn't working to start with. We went out there because my husband was working as an orthopedic surgeon at Cure. And as a GP, I got involved in a few things. So one was to set up a private clinic at Cure Hospital with some colleagues to help bring in some money for the work of Cure. And that was in Blantyre. And then I also got involved a bit with the medical school with helping at OSCE exams. And also we started a kind of lecture on stress and burnout for medical students. That was in the 4th year. And then I also had a chance to do a community clinic in Machinjiri at a friend's project, and that was mainly a monthly clinic looking at hypertension in the community and giving out blood pressure medicines, but obviously also seeing things that people come through the door with, like diarrhea and chest infections and malaria. And I got to do that clinic again actually when I went back in October, and just the feeling when you see like 60 to 100 people outside of a clinic and they've been queuing since sort of 5 a.m, totally humbling and overwhelming. And it's obviously a very small snapshot for me of what medical life is like for all of you in Malawi. But I'm not coming to this as sort of like, oh, we're in the UK in a well-resourced setting and it's Malawi that's got all the problems. Not at all. We've had our own issues in the UK, as you might have heard, especially after the COVID pandemic. There was a big backlog of work in the NHS because a lot of the services stopped. And now as a GP, when I'm referring even to specialties like gynecology or ENT, sometimes still have like a year to 18 months wait for patients to be seen in outpatients in the UK. So I think there are problems everywhere. In fact, I can't really think of a country where healthcare is running beautifully and everyone's needs are met. So I think all of us as healthcare professionals, wherever we're working in the world, are struggling with working in a setting that is lacking in resources. But we also appreciate that for you in Malawi, that is pretty extreme. That statistic Esmie mentioned of 2 psychologists in 21 million population is kind of humbling. So we realize that you guys are right at the front end of working in a difficult environment. So thinking about all those things got me thinking about what can I usefully talk about today in this global gathering. Don't want to depress everyone with how hard it is for everyone. Maybe we can talk about some of the things we can do to help protect ourselves in that environment. And I reached out to some people that were working in Malawi for tips on how to do that. And so just wanted to talk a little bit about resilience and burnout and how to kind of stay strong. And I think, but with an acknowledgement that if you're feeling burnt out, it's not you, it's the system, very much so, because our systems are broken and they are going to have an impact on all of us. So how do we function in that system without it kind of overwhelming us? So I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and hope that this works, because tech is not my entire screen. Share. Don't know if this is working. Is that okay, Tamsin? Can we see?
Yeah, we can see that. Yep. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, great. That's worked. Woohoo. I might have gone a bit far. So yeah, I wanted to talk about. I don't know. I'm going to mess it up now. Let me just see. Sorry, guys. You can see I have not done this for a while. Okay, so just talking out, first of all, I wanted to look at some of the statistics around the world. So as I was saying, this isn't a problem just in Malawi. It's NHS staff in the UK are also feeling stressed. 44% in the last look in the BMJ in 21. Needs to be more research on how staff are coping in Africa. There are not very many studies, but there was one that I did find where they looked at rural district hospitals in South Africa and found that 81% of doctors there reported burnout. So that was pretty mind-blowing in 2019. And then Tamsin and Medic to Medic organised a little survey of students and found that up to 60% of Medic to Medic students had some symptoms of mild to moderate depression on the PHQ-9, a depression score, and that was done in 2022. So we're very mindful of well-being, and that's why the sort of mentorship program was set up in Medic to Medic, to provide some support for students, because we recognise how difficult it is being a healthcare student. So just looking at sort of burnout and stress is a sort of emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances, and that's not always a bad thing. And that can be a performance enhancer under certain circumstances, like in the build up to an exam or something, in short bursts. But if you have that on an ongoing basis, performance drops out and it may lead to something like burnout. So burnout being defined as a state of fatigue brought about by devotion to a cause, way of life, or relationship that failed to produce the expected rewards, was the original definition in the 70s by American psychologists Freudenberger and Richardson. And I think the expected rewards bit for me is one of the interesting things, because I think we all go into healthcare with different expectations of what we're going to end up getting out of it. Is it that kind of warm feeling of helping people? Is it because we enjoy solving problems? Do we want a secure job to help our families, to get a reasonable income? You know, is it a bit of prestige and respect in our kind of hometowns or villages, whatever it is? And I think you set off with that, and then the reality of it may match up or it may not. And if it's not matching up in the way that we were hoping, that can be where burnout can sometimes occur. Another definition of burnout here, again, just helpful to look at how burnout can affect the prolonged physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion as a result of prolonged stress or frustration. And it can be accompanied by a change in attitude from positive and caring to negative and uncaring. You might hear people talk about compassion fatigue. I sort of want to emphasize that if anyone's experiencing that, it doesn't make them a bad person. It's just a bit of a red flag that you might be doing too much, and it might be time to say no to some things. I think we've probably all experienced a busy day at work where at the end of the day, we're feeling a bit less sympathetic to the patient in front of us than we were at the beginning of the day. But if that's becoming a regular thing where it's hard to care, then it's not necessarily a you problem. It might be that you're doing too much. This is just a funny little diagram of different symptoms of burnout, but just to sort of emphasize to you, and also it's helpful to kind of think about this in case you recognize this in a colleague, because it's so helpful, isn't it, if someone can reach out to another person and say, hey, I've noticed that you're a bit more irritable than you've been in the past. Is everything okay? And I had this yesterday. I was speaking in my practitioner health role to a consultant pediatrician who's Indian. And she said, I noticed that when I'm discussing cases now at work, if someone's not agreeing with me, instead of just feeling that I can have a civil discussion and not agree, I'm now feeling irritated and angry when I'm disagreeing with colleagues at work. And she said, that's a sign for me that something's not right, because I don't like that in myself. I'm not that kind of person normally. So if you find yourself sort of behaving in ways that you don't normally recognize or don't want to be as a person, it might be a sign that you're a bit burnt out. So other examples include sort of massive work dread the night before going into work, feeling depleted after work, like you're good for nothing, you just collapse in a chair and can't do anything else. You're waking up at night, or feeling sort of overwhelmed and a bit cynical and frustrated. Or maybe you're manifesting physical symptoms, so just regular headaches or backaches and aches and pains and things. All might be signs that things are getting a bit much. So the models we use in practitioner health, CBT is a common one. Some of you might recognize this if you're studying in the mental health sector. So it's just really the relationship between our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And so what's feeding into that little cycle is all the external factors that we can't control, like how busy our clinic is, whether our patients are happy or unhappy, did a mistake happen, our own personal worries about our family or finances, our own health issues. Maybe there's a massive workload, or maybe that doctor that was supposed to be coming in today cancelled. So that can all feed into feeling a bit stressed. And these are sort of examples of thoughts that might be happening. And I think with the thoughts, sometimes they're a bit unconscious. So with sometimes that thought of I can't do this, or it's only me that's not coping, might be quite sort of deep down, but can lead to feelings of feeling helpless and worthless. And if you think about it, if you're given too much to do in a day, you could be working as hard as you can, but you still don't have that nice satisfaction of feeling that everything's been finished and done. And that's really hard. Behavior, again, the sort of warning signs might be that you're starting to be a bit snappy with people that you are working with or people at home. Some people tend to react in terms of with stress and burnout of trying to do as much as they possibly can, coming in early, staying late, missing lunch.
And other people do the reverse. They start avoiding the situation. So maybe coming in late, calling in sick lots, going for prolonged lunches, ignoring emails. Other people turn to substances, and we see this a lot in the UK too, amongst our doctor colleagues. So sometimes going home and numbing ourselves with alcohol or other substances might be a problem for some folks. Avoiding social contact because we're completely depleted and we don't feel able to manage seeing people. Gosh, this is a bit gloomy. I promise there's good news ahead. This is just so that you've got an awareness in case it's happening to you. So how do we cope? Well, first of all, it's about acknowledging it and not being ashamed of it, because those statistics at the beginning show that this affects so many of us. This is something we all can experience at some point in our careers. Confide in friends and colleagues. I put rope versus thread because if you think of yourself as a thread under stress, you're more likely to break. If there are, 2 or 3 of you having the conversation about this, you're much stronger as a rope. So even if you're all working in a clinic and you're all feeling a bit stressed and overwhelmed, if you're regularly sharing that and encouraging each other or covering each other and helping each other out when there's a family crisis, you're going to be so much stronger through it than if you're just trying to soldier on alone, assuming that everyone else is coping fine. And then one of the people I reached out to ask for some advice was Jane Bates, who worked in Malawi for many years in palliative care, helping there. And I asked what would she say to you guys, and she said, do what you can. So you can only do so much in a day, can't you? And even if the need is 10 times that, you're still only able to do what you can physically do in a day. And just to remember that system, and I think we have to keep reinforcing this in the NHS to our NHS colleagues too, system failures are not your personal responsibility. If the system is supposed to have 10 doctors on the clinic, but in reality they've put 3 on, you can only do what you can do in a day. You're not superhuman. And then with that also comes learning to say no. Remember, if you're saying yes to something, it's saying no to something else. And saying yes to taking on an extra project or work might mean saying no to spending time with family or friends or exercising or doing other things which sustain you. So just think about what you're saying yes to. Take breaks goes without saying, but often people don't. They think they feel guilty for going for lunch if there's a queue outside the clinic. So really, I was told at medical school, the only reason you should miss lunch is if there's a cardiac arrest. That's sort of obviously a little bit tongue in cheek there, but it's just thinking about that, taking care of yourself at work and at home. So eating, drinking. I had one colleague when I was a junior doctor, he did an on-call weekend and didn't drink very much water and ended up being admitted at the end of the on-call weekend to the A&E with a kidney stone. So it's important to take care of yourself at work and then at home as well. Thinking of yourself outside of your healthcare role can be quite protective, because if our whole self-worth is on who we are as a nurse or a doctor or a therapist, then if things are going wrong in that area or we perceive them to be going wrong, our whole mental health kind of folds in. So it's good to think about yourself as in many different roles that you have in your life, and in terms of hobbies as well. Accepting fallibility, so easier said than done for medics. We have this very high standards of ourselves and as others, but obviously we're all human and we will make mistakes. It's right to look at why the mistake happened and how we can improve and keep patients safe, but it's also important that we don't beat ourselves up for mistakes because we're going to make them. We're humans. Accepting uncertainty is another way of boosting resilience. Again, it's not easy, but a team, a clinic, a healthcare centre that can view challenges as opportunities is going to be stronger than one that sort of gets very down or distressed by repeated crises. So just sort of, the approach of kind of discussing the problem, getting out all the fears and issues with it, and then saying what unites us as a team, and then how can we start producing some solutions to this problem, is going to be a sort of resilience booster. get some perspective. So quite often people talk about getting out in nature. It's actually been shown in studies that that does promote well-being. You guys all live in an absolutely stunningly beautiful country in Malawi. There's so much beautiful nature, birds, animals, the lake, mountains, all these things that you have around you. And it's important sometimes just to get away from the work and be outside, watch a sunset, whatever it is that makes you feel soothed and happier. So when we were talking about controlling thoughts or trying to get, take control of your thoughts, don't let them just kind of get into a negative spiral. Some people might think that's easier said than done. Well, my thoughts are my thoughts, so I can't help what they are. But actually that's not quite true. And the whole sort of premise of cognitive behavioral therapy is that you do have some control over your thoughts. This is a little kind of example. So you might say a friend's supposed to be visiting you for dinner and they're running late and you haven't heard anything from them. And what are you thinking? And your thoughts actually are governed very much by your mood in this scenario, or maybe what you've been dealing with that day. So you might have a different response depending on where you're at that day. So it's interesting to think that if you're anxious, your response to your friend running late might be, oh my goodness, something's happened to them. Maybe they've had a car crash. If you're angry, you might just think, well, they're so inconsiderate, that's just typical. I don't know why I bothered inviting them. If you're feeling low or depressed, you might think, well, I guess they didn't want to come anyway. Who wants to have dinner with me? It was a silly idea. But if you're at peace, you might just be thinking, I'm sure they're doing their best. They're on their way. No need to worry. And I think as healthcare professionals, we need to remember that we have a negative bias. This is because we're trained in problem solving. We're trained to look for all the things that could go wrong. Has that patient got cancer, for example? Are they at risk of suicide? All these, we're always honing in on the things that could go wrong because we want to prevent them and identify them. But unfortunately, this means that we ruminate all the time on kind of potentially negative things. So to counteract that, a kind of neat little CBT trick is to have something called a positive journal. So maybe if you've got time at the end of the day, just to write down one or two things that you're positive about or grateful for. And it could be just things like my health or my family, or the sun was shining today, or things like my colleague made me a cup of tea, or a patient thanked me. Whatever it is, it just kind of counters that sort of maybe some of the stress that happened in that day, because sometimes that can be all we think about when we leave, that thing that was really difficult, whereas it's good to sort of think about some of the things that were good in the day. In practitioner health too, they talk about anxiety and overthinking, and if that's something that you are susceptible to, sometimes therapists recommend having a dedicated worry time. Sounds a bit counterintuitive, but actually allocating a period of time, sort of maybe half an hour or 10 minutes of your push to just get all your worries out, and maybe writing them down helps, or maybe just speaking them out, and then it's done. You've voiced it all and it's over there, and off you go and get on with the rest of your day. The poisonous parrot is an interesting concept. I don't know why they call it that. I think it's because of the parrot sitting on the shoulder and speaking negative thoughts to you. Maybe there's an inner voice that you have saying you can't do it, or you shouldn't be here, you're not as clever as everybody else. Doctors, and particularly healthcare professionals, suffer massively with imposter syndrome, that feeling that they somehow shouldn't be doing this job, they're not capable. And you need to think about speaking to yourself in the way that you would a good friend. So sometimes they talk about getting the poisonous parrot and throwing a towel over it, but the first step is recognizing that that parrot is there speaking negative thoughts to you. And if that's you, then think about that. When we're taking control of our behavior, you could take a compassion-based approach. So this is another kind of little therapy model like CBT. So instead it sort of uses this three-legged stool. We can imagine a stool, and the three different legs are threat, drive, and soothe. So in our day-to-day lives in healthcare, we will have threats, we will have that deadline, that exam coming up, that patient who's really sick, and all of that produces a lot of adrenaline, which obviously kind of spurs us on to solve the problems, but it can also create anger and anxiety and sort of negative emotions. We have our drive part of ourselves, which is where we're getting our jobs done and we feel good about ourselves. We're ticking off our to-do list. We're running through the clinic. We're feeling good about working, but it's dopamine release, which is good hormone that makes us feel good, but it's also quite stimulating. And the soothe part is the self-care, sort of the safe times, the times away, maybe away from work, maybe resting, sleeping, seeing family, exercising, having a quiet cup of tea with a colleague, watching a movie, whatever it is that you like to do to calm yourself down. Healthcare professionals notoriously neglect the green leg of the stool, so the stool falls over, because we spend a lot of our time doing threat and drive. So it's just another way of looking at self-care, really, is like, it's not just an added extra or a treat for when you've got time. It is an integral part of your well-being. Your stool will fall over if you don't pay attention to it. And these are just examples of the threats, the drive, and the soothe. So threats related to healthcare, people mentioned suicidal patients, running late, angry patient. In Malawi, maybe power cut or traffic on the way in, all those things that kind of get you feeling more and more tense and stressed. And then the drive, you're getting all your stuff done during the day, which feels good, but again, quite stimulating. So have a think about getting more soothe activities into your life, and reflecting on them. So if you're thanked by a patient, don't just say, oh yeah, thanks, that's great. You know, maybe think about that at the end of the day, or as I said, in the positive journal or gratitude journal, write it down and remember, yeah, someone really appreciated me helping them today. That was great. And then there's many things just to kind of get you thinking about what might make you feel more soothed, listening to your favorite music, laughing about something, you know, having cakes in the break room, whatever it is that makes you feel that, you know, today is a positive day. These are just more things, really, and everyone will be different in terms of what works for them outside of work, but just make sure that it's there in your schedule. In fact, even put it in your diary. I've been doing this more lately myself, so blocking out a time, even if I'm just going for a walk with my dog, is in the diary, so that I don't put anything else in its place which won't be contributing to my self-care. So just to summarize, working in healthcare is stressful. That's widely documented, and that's true across the world. Of course, the more lacking in resources that you have in your setup, the perhaps more stressful it will be, because there's a real moral injury to seeing patients, knowing what they should have to have optimized their care, and then not being able to access it. So if I'm feeling, you know, distressed by not being able to get my patient seen by gynecology for a year, you may be feeling distressed because the power cut meant that they couldn't have their operation or the medicines weren't available. You know, that those things carry stress. Stress isn't completely to be feared. Some of it is motivating. It can galvanize us into overcoming challenges, and then we can feel quite rewarded in when we're making that positive difference to our patients' lives, or we've made changes in our clinic or in our hospital, which means things are going to work better. That's great. But burnout is a warning sign. Those physical symptoms, sleep disturbance, headache, getting irritable, feeling like you can't enjoy your spare time because you're so exhausted. Time to seek help. Speak to colleagues, your line manager, your friends. Pay attention to the thoughts that are rumbling around in your head. Think about writing down the positive things. Have you got a negative inner voice that needs taming? And pay attention to your behavior. Self-care, exercise, seeing friends, slowing down, sleeping well, eating well is not a luxury. It's actually essential to be able to function in a role like healthcare, which is emotionally draining, of course, very rewarding, but it's not a job where we can afford to not look after ourselves. And yeah, just thinking at the end of resources, the students here are blessed to have the Medic to Medic mentors. That's a great resource. It's a great scheme where people can reach out to someone and talk to someone who really gets what they're going through in their setting in Malawi. That's fantastic, and well done to anyone that's a mentor here. That's such a great thing to offer someone, such a great support. In the UK, there is a podcast that you probably access from Malawi too. It's called You Are Not a Frog. It was set up by a doctor It's called You Are Not a Frog because of that story of a frog in warm water that feels okay, and then the water gets hotter and hotter. It's kind of a horrible story, actually, that frogs won't realize when the water is dangerously hot if it's gradually turned up in temperature. And she named her podcast that because she felt that that was what it's like in healthcare, that we're asked to do more and more and more, and we don't realize the danger we're in mentally and physically, because we're just constantly asked to do more. So it's just that thing of a slight joke, you are not a frog. And there's a lot of free information there about how to take care of yourself, how to say no, how to thrive in your work, not just survive. There's other apps out there too that are good for kind of meditation, prayer, relaxation. One would be Calm app as well. So just have a think about those things. But yeah, making sure that you tailor your self-care to your personality, what works best for you. I think that's all I wanted to say on that, really. It was just to sort of hopefully impart some useful things that we impart to our doctors at Practitioner Health that might be helpful to all of you in Malawi. And just to say, it's so great to hear all your stories, so inspired by what you're all doing. Appreciate that your setting is a really challenging one. And yeah, just all the best of luck to all of you here on this call.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. I'm sure there may be some questions for you because that was a very interesting talk. We seem to have had kind of a mental health theme woven through this year's global gathering, which is cool because it often does get forgotten about. So if anyone has any questions for Liz, do feel free to pop it in the chat. If there's any questions afterwards, I can get them to Liz and kind of facilitate them as well. But otherwise, we have come to the end of this year's global gathering. So thank you very much for joining us. We're hoping to do this every year, and we've kind of reset the balance of kind of timelines of when we'll do that. So we'll be aiming kind of to do it every February and March. So we did sort of skip 2024, kind of moving on to this new timeline in 2025. But it was great to have you all here. Thanks so much for joining us. For those that came live, thank you to all our speakers who very bravely shared a lot about their personal stories and backgrounds. We're very grateful for you. I think it means a lot more when you've got voices on the ground sharing the actual circumstances compared to just kind of us putting it in a newsletter. It means a lot more, and you're all very inspiring in many different ways. And we really hope that we can continue to grow Medic to Medic so that we can support more students in Malawi who are struggling with fees. So that's all for now. Do feel free to put any questions on the chat. I'm going to try and start some Malawi music on YouTube to sound us out. But I might get an advert again, so we'll just see how that goes. And thank you for joining us.
We are here to make on tomorrow. Like flowers we fade away. Just like water runs, the river flows. This moment will last. Be a little while, so dance with me. I wanna dance with me, dance with me. Come on, dance with me, dance. Come on, dance with me, dance alone. Everybody celebrate and move yourself to the rhythm of the music. Let the laughter and smiles of these beautiful people set your life on fire. Let's dance together. Jump around and feel the air with giant noise. Make beautiful memories of this moment. We'll live